A challenging week was coming to an end as I returned from a business trip. The atmosphere in Boulder was serene, although the weather was quite cool. Meeting my driver, I asked to stop at the store as I needed to buy something for dinner. My wife had gone to another town to visit relatives, leaving me to do the dinner, which I don't like very much. As I drove up to our house, I noticed that there was a light on in the windows. It became clear that my mother-in-law had stopped by to feed the parrot in our absence. However, this realization did not bring me comfort. Although my mother-in-law is a decent woman who respects me, she, like any mother-in-law, tends to influence my mood, not for the better. She is a plain woman, 42 years old, not prone to obesity, of average height, with moderately firm breasts and very pretty. Yet there is something unique about her, and after a glass of wine, her eyes begin to glisten like diamonds in the sun. Her husband, my wife's stepfather, is not a very attractive man who lost his charm about 10 years ago. While my mother-in-law watched TV passionately, I uttered a few obligatory phrases before heading to the kitchen to eat dinner. The cheese, sausage, and salad were already on the table when my mother-in-law entered the room. I quickly poured wine as a token of my attention. As I sipped the wine, a feeling of warmth spread through my body, and I felt kinder and calmer. We sat down together and began to talk animatively about life, enjoying each other's company. Eventually, she mentioned that she was going to watch a TV program and stood up, but I noticed that she was swaying slightly, worried that she might lose her balance. I instinctively put my arm around her waist for support. Suddenly, I felt a surge of arousal coming from her that affected me as well. Sensing the tension of the moment, I loosened my grip on her waist, and she straightened up and walked to the next room. Intrigued, I followed her into the dimly lit room, where she dropped the remote and bent down to look for it on the floor. In the soft light of the kitchen lamp, I admired her from the back. Desire surged in me, and I pressed myself imperceptibly against her. Through the fabric of our clothes, she felt my heightened tension. A shiver ran down her spine, and she nestled against me with force. I gently led her over to the couch, and she leaned on it for support. Although my mother-in-law hadn't expected such hot contact, she seemed to enjoy it. Afterward, she showered and dressed, and I freshened up as well. Later, I called a cab for her, and she headed home. At parting, my mother-in-law gave me a big hug, and my mood was noticeably lifted. We had 2 weekends ahead of us. We planned to go to the movies, and she reminded me to feed the parrot in the morning. For the next few days, Marjorie behaved normally, aside from a few lingering glances and light touches whenever we met. I tried hard not to be alone with her, for fear that we would lose control again. But soon, Marjorie showed up unexpectedly, while my wife was at work with gifts of wine and cheese. Before I knew it, we were drinking together in the dimly lit room, the conversation flowing. Marjorie moved closer on the couch and began stroking my arm as she spoke. My pulse quickened. I knew I should pull away, but I couldn't. We had begun a confusing affair whenever my wife wasn't home. Marjorie would make excuses to come over. Sometimes she would send me lurid pictures out of the blue, and I would squirm with lustful desperation if I couldn't get away to see her. Our connection was frenetic, almost primal at times. I started traveling more often for work to facilitate our dates. I'd book a nice hotel room and spend entire nights worshiping Marjorie's body until we both passed out. Then we'd do it again as soon as we woke up, often missing departure time. When I found myself at home, I withdrew from my wife, irritated by her presence, which disturbed me. Marjorie occupied all my thoughts. I began to fantasize about running away together, perhaps to some tropical paradise where we could fulfill our sensual fantasies without shame. One night, Marjorie showed up on my doorstep in tears she had left her husband. Before I could react, she was on her knees begging me to leave my wife too, so that we could finally be together for real. I was stunned. The fantasy had come, but I hesitated, unprepared for it. Seeing me hesitate, Marjorie became hysterical. She threatened to come in and tell my wife everything if I refused to be with her. But I didn't give in to this provocation on her part. After that, Marjorie kept her distance, although she did not forget to show off her dates with other young men on social media. I can't deny that I still miss her body. Even after all the drama, she spoiled me for someone else. My wife also feels something is wrong. For now, I'm trying to repair this relationship, but it's clear that once that forbidden line is crossed, there's no going back.